FNaF Security Breach released over a month ago now, and technically it was released last year. I've played through the entire game and every single ending more than twice. In fact, I've replayed the entire game all in one day once, getting every single ending again in that one day. I even glitched Phaser Blast so I could get the Afton ending even before 6 AM. But there's still so many questions people have about the game. Is Afton dead after the Afton ending? Who is the Blob? What's the deal with the In Your Dreams staff bots? Well, those last two are primarily what we'll be talking about in this video. For this video, we are going to be talking about whether or not the puppet has returned in Security Breach. This is part 2 of a trilogy of theories on Security Breach that I've been doing. I won't say what the whole trilogy is about just yet, as I'm going to save that for the next and final video in the trilogy. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I also have a bunch more theories planned, so leave a like and subscribe if you want to see that. But for now, without further ado, let's just get started. The In Your Dreams bots are one of the most interesting parts of Security Breach to me, simply because they are so mysterious. They were first teased in the first episode of Freddy and Friends on Tour in the glitch we see around 20 seconds into the video. Then we see an official non-glitchy look at them in the final trailer for Security Breach, a clip I have actually added to my intro. When I first saw this in the Freddy and Friends episode 1, I didn't know what to think about it. But in one of Ozone's videos, he mentioned that it looks kinda like Nightmare On, and when I watched that video, I couldn't believe I didn't notice that. When the final October trailer released, it was revealed that those things were actually staff bots. They seemed to be bots that had been scrapped and thrown into the sewer, which is where we see them in-game, and like I said, they look a lot like Nightmare On. But the interesting thing about these things is that the Nightmare On tear tracks and mouths are actually drawn on, which you could tell by the fact that there is no depth within them. And you could just say that maybe Vanny made them, considering she controls them, as seen by the Vanny endings. But the thing is, about the staff bots, even before transforming into these Nightmare On looking monsters, they already look like the puppet. Notice the slight blue tear tracks and red cheeks, just like the puppet. And also think, the puppet was originally a security device. The puppet was originally the security puppet. So the majority of these staff bots being security bots does not seem like a coincidence. So that's clearly a connection with the puppet. That is not a coincidence. But what's even less of a coincidence is the connection with the puppet with the originals and how it becomes another version of the puppet, Nightmare On, later. Some people may argue that they don't act much like the puppet, so there may not be enough evidence to prove Charlotte possesses them, but the reason I'm so confident that these things are possessed is through the fact that their eyes glow, which is usually an indicator of possession. It's also a possibility that this is a similar situation to the Fun Times. The Fun Times have spirits of the missing children infused inside of them, but they don't exactly have control. Like, they do if they work together, but they are mostly in there for the reason of powering them. This could be a similar situation in these In Your Dreams bots. But before we get into that, I just want to briefly mention what the lore implications of the writing of In Your Dreams on their chests could mean. So yeah, considering these look like Nightmare On, it seems to be like a reference to FNaF 4, since that technically is a dream, and as we know, Mike is the player of FNaF 4. This is confirmed in the survival logbook, as well as the FNaF 1 phone call appearing as an Easter egg in the Nights, plus it's hinted at in many Fazbear Fright stories. But it seems hinted at that it is Michael experiencing it through torture or possibly a curse given to him by the crying child, kind of as revenge. This seems to imply that the bite victim did see the nightmares at some point in 1983. Probably at some point in the FNaF 4 bedroom in a non-dream scenario, since we see in this location that the nightmare animatronics are real. But based on a line in the logbook, it seems hinted at that the bite victim also had real experiences with the nightmare animatronics as well, possibly on the one day he was in the coma after the bite. So anyway, my point is the In Your Dreams line could be a reference to Gregory being some version of the bite victim. Obviously Gregory can't be the original bite victim, and I no longer believe he's a robot, but he definitely seems to represent the bite victim in some way. I'll talk more about Gregory in a future theory, still a work in progress though. I kinda had to put that theory on hold due to a few other things I wanted to do first, including this one. So anyways, there's one final thing to point out which may prove the puppet is in the staff bots. The Jumpscare of the Alpha Z group has the audio of Nightmare On's Jumpscare in the background. It is hard to hear, but it is there. Really focus in on it and you should hear it, especially closer to the end of the jump scare scream. And this sound effect isn't in any of the other animatronics, it's exclusive to these staff bots. This was pointed out to me by Shadow Libra. If I remember to, I'll put his channel in the description. His videos are cool, but if I don't remember to, remind me in the comments, I guess. But anyway, yeah, he was the one to point this out to me. But for some reason, I didn't really make the connection that it was evidence of the staff bots being puppet until someone pointed it out in Ozone's recent Security Breach Theory livestream. Throughout the stream, Ozone and Psychic let people into the voice chat to talk briefly about a topic, and when one man, Slow Sandwich Maker, joined the voice chat on stream, he brought up the jump scare effect and how it could prove the puppet is in the bots, and then it kinda just clicked for me, and I was finally almost completely sure that the puppet was in these things. But now let's talk about how the puppet could be inside the helper bots, and it really ties into what we talked about in the last video on Dance With Me, the circuit boards. Earlier in the video I mentioned how I thought the puppet wasn't exactly controlling the bots but was kind of powering them, and this theory I'm about to share can explain how. As I said earlier, make sure you watch that Dance With Me video before you continue because this will make a lot more sense. But in that last video I suggested that the Dance With Me novelty glasses could possibly also exist in the games, built using circuit boards from the Blob which contained the spirit of Mrs. Afton, and this could be similar to what happens with the puppet. You see, Glitch Trap was created from scanning circuit boards from the old animatronics, and now with FNAF 6 being under security breach, it seems confirmed that those old animatronics were the FNAF 6 animatronics, the scrap animatronics. And it makes absolutely no sense that they would only do so with Scrap Trap. And it says old animatronics, so it shouldn't just be Scrap Trap, like animatronics plural. And that seems to make it clear that the Blob was also used in circuit boards. As we see in the model, the puppet is actually a part of the Blob. What this could mean is some of the circuit boards from the Blob could have Charlotte's spirit on them, and those circuit boards could have been used to power the staff bots. However, this now brings us up to the next topic in the video, the Blob. After what I just said, I'm betting a lot of you are taking it to the comments to tell me the puppet doesn't actually possess the Blob, because there are no tear tracks on the face of the puppet mask. And that is true. In the security puppet minigame, we can see that the security puppet didn't have tear tracks, meaning they actually came from the spirit of Charlotte. But this doesn't necessarily mean the puppet isn't present. Many things imply she is, and there is a way it could work. You see, the Blob uses tentacles to attack you, tentacles that move around in a similar fashion to Nightmare On in FNAF VR. And with the staff bots looking like Nightmare On, these Nightmare On-esque tentacles don't seem to be a coincidence. This seems to imply that the puppet is in the Blob, but the fact that she seems to be in control of the tentacles could just be trying to hint that maybe the pupper no longer But the fact that she seems to be in control of the tentacles could just be trying to hint that maybe the puppet no longer possesses the puppet mask, but rather has now moved her spirit elsewhere in the Blob. Because the Blob is not just one entity. The Blob is all the scrap animatronics, excluding Afton, tangled together. The key word here is tangled. They are tangled together, not merged together. So it would make sense for Charlotte to have moved her spirit into the wires of Molten Freddy. Also, it wouldn't make sense for Charlotte's spirit to be set free. This is mostly due to the fact that, as many parts of the series imply, the FNAF 6 fire didn't work. The missing children are still inside the Blob, as hinted by the fact that the Blob is working with Afton at first and later attacks him. This connects with the similarities between the Afton ending and the ending of the fourth closet. If you want to know more on that, check out one of my recent videos on the Twisted Ones and its connection to Security Breach. And Circus Baby is inside the Blob as well, and of course, so is the puppet. Another thing to ask is, if the puppet isn't in the Blob, what is the point at all for the puppet mask to be inside the Blob? Not to mention the fact that both Circus Baby and the puppet heads are in the Blob's model, but in-game, without using the debug menu or looking in the files at the model itself, you are actually unable to see Baby and Puppet in the Blob, especially the puppet. The puppet mask is not even exposed on the model. It is hidden on the back of the model at the bottom and glitched inside a rock, preventing it from ever being seen unless you use the debug menu and fly through the rock. The fact that the puppet and Baby are actually hidden inside the model, in my eyes, seems to show importance, hidden lore. It's also worth noting that neither the puppet nor Baby have red eyes, implying that they aren't active, but that could just mean that at the current time, their spirits are off focusing on other things, like the puppet is currently in the staff bots and Baby is somewhere else, but they possibly return, specifically the puppet, when they see Gregory is down there. Another thing that really hints at the puppet still being around is the trailer for FNaF AR. And I know that may seem like a weird thing to mention, but it's actually pretty important. You see, throughout the trailer are a bunch of glitchy static sections, and these parts show, for a split second, 8-bit models of characters: Purple Guy, Glitch Trap, and Lefty. The reason this is interesting is the fact that Glitch Trap and Purple Guy are obviously incredibly important characters. So Lefty, the puppet, being present alongside them in a FNaF AR trailer, which seems to take place around the same time as Security Breach, seems to imply that the puppet has returned. So that's that. The puppet is inside the blob, and the circuit boards used to create the staff bots have Charlotte's spirit inside them. But there's a little bit more to talk about. How exactly are Mangle, Chica, and Bonnie inside the blob? Well, I have a very interesting theory on that. For Chica and Bonnie is a theory that's been circulating around a lot, and it makes a lot of sense. But for Mangle, I have a separate and very interesting idea that I haven't seen anyone else talk about. But let's start with Bonnie and Chica. The Bonnie and Chica animatronics inside the blob are not the originals. The original Bonnie and Chica were left behind in the FNaF 1 location after William collected the endos of the animatronics and melted them together, creating the remnant of the original missing children, and he puts them in the Fun Times. We know this for a fact based on how the remnant in the Fun Times in the 4th closet works, and how Henry in FNaF 6 very much confirms that the missing children are present in FNaF 6, and based on the 4th closet, it would only make sense that that was in the Fun Times, and in Molten Freddy. And Molten Freddy is the blob. So this also means that Happiest Day doesn't happen after FNaF 6, but sometime after Security Breach instead. I mean, after FNaF 6, but later on after FNaF 6 it happens. But basically the old animatronics are all gone. These are not the originals. These are rebuilt versions of Bonnie, Chica, and Mangle for that matter. The most logical option in my opinion is that Bonnie and Chica here are disposed FNaF AR animatronics. Possibly some broke down or something, or they were just thrown down into the wreckage of FNaF 6 for whatever reason, and maybe Molten Freddy absorbed them. We also see a few inactive endos in the cave leading up to the FNaF 6 building, seeming to indicate that some endos were used to repair Afton, especially since he seems to partially have a Glamrock endoskeleton, and we see quite a lot of endoskeletons inside the blob. So it's possible that the blob absorbed FNaF AR animatronics, endoskeleton remains, and Mangle, similar to the Afton amalgamation in the Fazbear Fright Stitch line. And let's not forget that the puppet is also present in that story, and in the end drowns in a lake with the Afton amalgamation, which could be a reference to the puppet being in the blob. This also goes against the Stitch line being in the games, considering they're literally at the bottom of a lake, so yeah. And that means the puppet wouldn't be down in FNaF 6. And neither would the blob if the blob was the remains of the Afton amalgamation. But, I mean, yeah, whatever. But anyway, speaking of Mangle, let's finish up the video with my theory on how Mangle is in the blob. Like Chica and Bonnie, Mangle in the blob is clearly not the original Mangle. The primary reason for this is that the toy animatronics, Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, and Mangle, were scrapped after FNaF 2 due to one of them committing the bite of 87. So this can't be the original Mangle that's in the blob. It can be a disposed FNaF AR Mangle animatronic, but I have a more interesting idea that fits in with other things that we can find around the Pizzaplex. Every attraction in the Pizzaplex is based on a certain animatronic in the Pizzaplex. Fazoblast is Freddy, Monty Golf is Monty, Roxy Raceway is Roxy, Mazer Size is Chica, Bonnie Bull is Bonnie. Obviously Bonnie is no longer in the Pizzaplex, but we know for a fact that he has been at some point. Though we never see L-Chip in Security Breach himself, we do see references to him in the form of the staff bots, but there's one attraction that doesn't seem to have anyone. Kids Cove. And the reason this is interesting is because way back in FNaF 2, Kids Cove was the attraction Mangle was in. Is it possible that Mangle was actually remade and used as an animatronic at the Pizzaplex? I see it as a possibility, especially considering how many references to Mangle are in the Pizzaplex. Not only Mangle being in the blob in Kids Cove, but there's 2 rooms you can find in the game that are very interesting. You see, once you get Monty's claws and Chica's voice box, you will be able to unlock gates that lead to secret rooms. Most of these rooms have gifts, but the thing is, some of these rooms are actually levels in Help Wanted. You can find Plush Baby, Parts and Service, and Curse of Dreadbear, but 2 of these rooms are even more interesting. Toward the beginning of the game, in the room right before finding Chica in the bathroom, there's a Monty gate there. When you go through, it's just a circular room with really nothing important except a second Monty gate on the other side of the room. When you go through that one, you can find the Build a Mangle minigame room from Curse of Dreadbear in FNaF VR. But wait, there's more. Down in the kitchen near the loading dock, you can find a Chica voice box gate, where you can find this room. It may be hard to tell what it is at first, since it is slightly different to how it is in Help Wanted, but this is the Mangle vent repair. This seems suspicious, right? Two of the help wanted minigame rooms we can find in Security Breach are Mangle minigames. Could this be hinting at Mangle being important to Security Breach? Maybe, because what this all shows is that the rooms are real, and were only added to the VR game afterwards. So is it possible that the events in these levels actually happened? What if a technician went to fix the vents, but Mangle attacked him, possibly leading to Fazbear Entertainment scrapping Mangle again? Maybe Mangle was infected by glitch traps, similar to how Mangle in the fourth closet is under William's control. A small idea I had for Build-A-Mangle was that Mangle was underground but still went through the vents and stuff, and Build-A-Mangle could possibly have been an effort to replace Mangle after he was scrapped. Or she, I guess, or they. I mean, this is a rebuilt version of Mangle, so they don't seem to have multiple spirits, so I guess it's just the she. I'll just say she. Whether or not the new Mangle that we create in Build-A-Mangle ended up being performers at any future locations is unclear, but it doesn't matter too much. But anyway, after Vent Repair and Build-A-Mangle, Mangle was scrapped and thrown down into FNaF 6 where the Blob absorbed it. This whole Mangle theory is a lot more speculative, and it's more of a fun idea than a theory, but I just wanted to mention it, because it's pretty cool, at least in my opinion. Before I go, I just wanted to mention one last thing. In this video, we've basically discussed the entirety of the Blob, right? We have explanations for everything. The missing children are controlling it, the puppet spirit is focused elsewhere but returns when Gregory shows up, the endoskeletons are the old endoskeletons that were used to repair Afton, Mangle was an old performer at the Pizzaplex that went haywire and was abandoned, Bonnie and Chica are disposed FNAF AR animatronics that were thrown underground after being scrapped, and the whole thing has spirits in it, but those spirits are made stronger by the amount of agony in the Blob. We have explanations for every animatronic inside the Blob, except one, Circus Baby. So, what happened to her? Well, that's just gonna have to wait for its own video. But anyways guys, I think that's just about everything to talk about for this video. I hope you all enjoy it. If you did, please do leave a like and subscribe. Stay tuned for my upcoming theories, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys.